And welcome back to the Bundesliga Show, brought to you by Over the Bar. We're tuning in tonight for our first review show of the season, looking back on the first 9 games of the Bundesliga season. We've been treated to a lot of entertaining games and goals. We're really looking forward to getting stuck into it. Before we do and kind of talk about the structure of tonight's show and everything else, obviously a warm welcome back for Peter. We've got a bit of technical and audio issues, so we're kind of working our way around it tonight. So that's why we're a few minutes starting late, and then Mark's internet dropped out, but we're all here now. Peter, you can unmute yourself, and we'll zip it for a second just to say that you can welcome yourself back into the thing.
Very pleased to be here. It's great to see you guys again. And yes, apparently we fell apart, technically speaking, much like Bochum before we went on the air. And we'll get to that shortly.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Peter. Yeah, so before we get going, smash a like on the show for the first review show of the season. Yeah, really looking forward to getting stuck into this. Me particularly, so for my vested interest. Comment along on whether you think our picks, so obviously returning to our featured 4 format, are in the right order. Have your say on your team's performances. Do let us know if you have any questions as well. Please do smash that red button and subscribe to the channel as we again tiptoe towards 1,000. We'll probably keep on banging on about it until we get there, so please do help us get up there and get to 1,000 subscribers. That'd be amazing to kickstart the season. Right then, Mark. So we're going to be getting stuck into the top 4 most entertaining games of the weekend. So I'll give you the honours of getting us kick-started with our pick of 4th most entertaining game of the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. There was so many good games this weekend, as there pretty much always are in the Bundesliga. You know, so many entertaining games, missed penalties, score penalties, crazy decisions as well, some controversial misses and some great goals as well in there as well. So yeah, let's see where we're going to start with this week. And yeah, I mean, it says a lot that this is the 4th best game of the weekend because it was very, very drama-filled, to say the least. And it was Sunday afternoon's game in sunny Berlin, over 30 degrees in Berlin, which doesn't happen that often as well. But yeah, Union turned it on really to start the season. You know, as we know, probably one of the best home teams in the league in the Forester Ride, just absolutely battered Mainz. But I mean, the scoreline suggested it would have been a battering, but obviously, if those of you watch the game or watch the highlights of the game, then it was a pretty crazy match after all. And our man, Ajorque, as well. I mean, what happened to him? I think me and Peter and you, Rory, as well, bigged him up a lot, but he ended up missing 2 penalties in this match. Not 1, but 2 penalties. And that man, Kevin Behrens, an aerial god, basically, scoring a hat-trick with his head. Fantastic performance from him and the Union side. I think for me, I mentioned on the prediction show on our watch along that I didn't expect that Union would put too many of the new men in there. We saw Goossens on the bench and also Folland on the bench as well. But we did see Aronson start, Fofana start. So we did see a few of the new faces as well for this Union side. But I mean, obviously, they were 2-0 ahead inside 10 minutes in this game. 2 headers. Classic Union Berlin goals as well. But I've got to say, for the first goal, some great build-up play from Aronson as well, who's a young man from America who's, come with a big name. He's one of the marquee signings, really, for this Union side. And I thought he was superb in the game, and especially in this opening play as well. The goal after just less than a minute as well. So it's the earliest goal of the season so far. So, yeah, I'll come to you first, Peter. I mean, who shone for you in this game? I personally thought Union was superb, and I mean, the missed penalties, but I mean, I still thought Union deserved the win for me in this one.
Yes, it was an absolutely a mammoth statement from FC Union Berlin, who are our Champions League representatives. That is just 4 years after they were promoted. It is quite some story. They are a small club in Köpenick there in the East German quarter with a capacity stadium of just 22,012. And of course, they have been expertly built up, not only by trainer Urs Fischer, but also by managing director Oliver Runert, who has really made some great targeted signings. You mentioned Brendan Aronson. He is the elder Aronson brother. His younger brother plays for Eintracht Frankfurt. The elder Aronson brother, Brendan, who I believe was with Leeds for a time, is referred to as the Medford Messi. He's from Medford, New Jersey, and came up through the Philadelphia Union Academy there, which should be called Erste FC Union Philadelphia. That would be a much cooler name, but Americans are still getting the hang of naming their clubs. You mentioned Dabadrato Fofana, the Chelsea loanee, who I believe you couldn't have picked a better targeted signing. He is essentially in that lineup, in that 3-5-2 constellation, to do precisely what Geraldo Becker ordinarily does. And the story of Kevin Behrens is amazing. He was signed by Union 2 years ago. He had not played a top-tier match 2 summers ago when he was signed. Started to awaken in the Conference League in 2021-22, and then, of course, slowly worked his way up to a starting position, dispatching others, including another American, Jordan Sibachu. It's a huge statement from them. I hope that there's going to be many more FC Union fans here on the pod and in the Bundesliga now, because they could very easily finish top 4 yet again, the way that this squad has been upgraded. And credit to Frederik Rönau for holding those 2 penalties. Although I have to say my favorite penalty of Sunday did belong to your England girl, Mary Earps, if I can get a slight plug in for her.
It was the only good thing in that matchup. Yeah, and then over to you, Rory. So what did you make? Obviously, we've talked a lot about Union there, but what would you say about the obviously the missed penalties? I mean, what a player, Ajorque, one of our players of the second half of last season. But I mean, to be honest, Mainz really didn't do that much in this game, apart from the 2 penalties and that screaming goal from Caci, by the way. I've got to get him mentioning from that. That was a beautiful volley as well after the header out. But what did you make of those penalties? What went wrong with our man there, Rory?
Just liked a little bit of, belief in a sense. He kind of stepped up to them with not a great deal of authority. The first one was probably the better struck of the 2, and more so in the corner. So he starts going down his right-hand side, the left of Renault, and it's not well struck in general speaking terms, and it's a good solid save, but it's not a spectacular one that was needed. So obviously it wasn't his day all day long, Ajorque. He had the effort against the bar, and he kind of just looked to the heavens as in, this is really not happening for me or any of my teammates in that sense. As you mentioned, great strike by Caci, really put Mainz back into a game that they didn't deserve to be in, really. They were quite poor. The fast start from Union put them to bed pretty quickly, and they were just overrun as well, I felt, and they never really got going. We have spoken about their away form, or I've maybe mentioned it more than others, and it is patchy at times. Bo Svensson must have gave them an absolute rocket at half-time. I think they were better in the second half. Naturally, the late goal makes it obviously 4-1. It makes it maybe look slightly more of a smashing. And as you say, with 2 missed penalties, it could well have been 3-3, and they could have got a very unwarranted draw out of it, really. But overall, not Mainz's day. I'm sure they'll come back just as strong. Onisiwo wasn't really in the game. They brought on Nelson Viper, obviously the young striker. He didn't really get much of a kick either. And it just didn't work across the board for them. Some of their bigger players, Hardcore, Stack, just didn't quite get into the match as much as they should have done. But perfect start for Union, and the perfect picture as well has been doing the rounds on Twitter and everywhere else. Is a delightful snap of the hat-trick hero, Kevin Behrens, getting his team off to the perfect start, hat-trick hero with his head, finishes up, gets changed, and then bikes home, obviously. I mean, how cool is that? Just love that. People just taking snaps of him casually on his bike after doing the business with the Union and getting them off to a perfect start. So, absolutely loved that. And, really, really good an impressive start by Union. And again, as Peter was alluding to, when we were doing our predictions, Mark, we put Union further down probably because of their involvement in the Champions League, but they've signed so well. And having the likes of Goossens and Voland to come off the bench, and no doubt they'll both get their opportunities to start matches. But, that's so important. And Voland both for Bundesliga experience, and the experience by Voland to set up the fourth goal for Pantovic, through on goal, really good vision just to kind of pick his eyes up and know that the pass is on straight away, to do it early and to make the most of the numbers and the overload to make it obviously 4-1 in the end. Yeah, really impressive overall performance. So yeah, Union, they're looking good. Right, I'll lead us on to the third match of our featured four then. And as you can see below, it's VfB Stuttgart 5, VfL Bochum 0. Definitely a match that had a lot of people saying it's a 6-pointer already, for both teams being nearer the bottom of the table or expected to be there. Naturally, the scoreline suggests a one-sided affair. And I think, generally speaking, it was. But I'll come to you, Mark, first about this one. Could have been a different story if Hoffman had maybe buried his early chance where he gets in ahead of Zagadou to possibly make it 1-0 to the away side, put Stuttgart under a bit more pressure. But then after that, the home side started to take control for me.
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was an awful start from Stuttgart, actually. And obviously, as you mentioned, Zagadou, a man who finished last season really well, I felt, and, is probably going to, obviously went on to score later on in this match, but that was a really poor start from him. And Philipp Hoffmann knows that he should have buried that one. He should have put them 1-0 ahead inside just about a couple of minutes that chance was inside. And, if that goes in for 1-0 to the away side, it's a different game for me, and it's not so rosy all of a sudden for Hoeneß's men. And Stuttgart, yeah, fantastic scenes as well before the match with the Cannstatter curve. It's a fantastic stand, great tifo as well, covering the whole stand, and they were cheering before long as well. And it was probably, for me, maybe even the man of the match. It was Jeong. I just thought he was superb, the signing from Freiburg. He makes this goal. And it's a classic Guirassy finish. I'm not quite sure what Bochum goalkeeper Riemann is doing. He absolutely flies out of his area. And he makes it quite an easy finish, to be honest, from Guirassy, who, by the way, got absolutely pole-lacked by the defender as well. Like, the defender came in and literally took him off his feet, and he ended up with a cut on his hand. But yeah, it was a classic Guirassy finish. You can't give him a chance like that. But for me, that was a bit of a mistake from Riemann, to be honest with you. He comes way too far out of his net. It is a great through ball from Jeong, but it's poor goalkeeping for me from the normally excellent Riemann, who didn't have his best game in this match. But yeah, after that, Stuttgart go on to dominate, really, aside from one chance from Masovic at the start of the second half. He's a bit of a legend scoring goals from centre-half, Masovic, isn't he? But he couldn't quite get on the end of this one. But, aside from that, I think probably one of the great things about this match was seeing Silas get 2 goals as well. That was a beautiful sight, wasn't it? A man who I think was one of the main reasons why Rory fell in love with Stuttgart as well early on, because, what a player he was that year. When they came up that year from the Zweite into the Bundesliga, what a player. He looked like a world beater, really. And then obviously he got 2 tragic injuries, and, great to, they were quite easy finishes, both goals, but it's still great to see him get on the score sheet. The Cannstatter curve clearly appreciated that. They were really happy to see him back amongst the goals. Obviously, Zagadou getting an easy goal from a header. Good start to the season from him after that early mistake. For me, with Stuttgart, it's all about keeping Guirassy, really. I just think he's such a good striker. Obviously, he ended up getting a second goal as well. If they have him, even without Endo, I still feel as though they can have a solid season. I just feel as though Guirassy is top quality. Another man that deserves credit from this match is Stenzel as well. Yeah. Because he's a player that has not been particularly rated over the years, but I thought he was superb filling in for Wagnermann as well at right back. It was a great performance overall. Mio was excellent as well, and even Chris Furyk seems to have he's had a bit of a resurgence in his career as well. Obviously, there was no Mavropanos in this game too. He's expected to leave the club as well. Yes. Also, a certain Borna Souza as well, who's also very likely to leave, it seems. But to be honest, even with that team out there, you know, Jong really, really good, Michel really good, you know, and if Silas can get his form back from 2 years ago, then they've still got a half decent team out there for me, Stuttgart.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, lots of good points in there, 100%. Go to you now then, Peter. And I think one thing that really struck me was the ease at which Stuttgart scored a few of their goals. You know, some of the finishes were clinical and clean, but the marking and, you know, the closing down from Bochum was just so off it.
Absolutely. Yes, there's a lot of concern for Bochum now as we begin to contemplate whether or not our two dwarf clubs, Heidenheim and Darmstadt, actually have a chance of staying in the league. I think you have to look at Bochum, and you probably also have to look at Köln. Well, they played well, Köln did. Mainz, I would definitely now put into the relegation race. Werder also have their problems. So, yes, a lot of concern about Bochum. The marking was atrocious, you put it that way. I believe you pretty much covered everything that a German football fan enjoyed about this match. Most especially Wuyong Zhong, who just came in from Freiburg. Christian Jakic from Frankfurt is also being linked with the move to Stuttgart at this point, as is current Crystal Palace defender Chris Richards, formerly of FC Bayern München and TSG Hoffenheim. So there are more transfers on the way. Do they really need them is a question. I mean, if they can keep this team together, there are still some outgoing links. Sven Mislintat, as you know, is trying to pluck a lot of Bundesliga players. He's trying to get Hiroki Ito to Ajax after he spent $10 million on Divan Ramage from Frankfurt. But I was thinking about you, Rory, when I was watching Serhu Guirassi's post-match interview. The Sky commentator actually effectively said, "You're not really going to leave Germany after this, are you?" And Guirassi was quite non-committal. He gave a simple answer, "Nee, fühle mich wohl." Yeah, I'm comfortable here, and then walked off. So I had concern that he might leave. There's reports were emerging today that he turned down some interest from Fulham. So it's possible that he does want to stay. I mean, Guirassi and also Mergin Berisha and Augsburg are two strikers who were on loan last season. They signed with these clubs, but they still wish to leave. They still wish to make the step up. Whether or not somebody is interested in them remains to be seen. And I think that Ito is going to stay because they're going to hold fast to that. He also had an amazing game. I mean, Borna Sosa, who Ito set up that. I mean, he is your new left back, and I mean, just absolutely amazing what he was able to do. Stenzel as well, Führich as well, a brace for both Silas and Guirassi. It was an absolute perfect game for Stuttgart. Zagadou missed Hoffmann on that early chance, but he had some great recovery tackles and scored a goal himself. Yeah, I'm not too worried about your boys this season. I think that they'll be just fine. There's some additional help on the way. I think that they're going to keep the players that they have. Bochum, I'm seriously concerned about now. Bremen and Mainz as well. Oh, and thank you for bringing up the choreo from the Cannstatter Curve. I neglected to mention that the FC Union Berlin choreo just prior to kickoff was also incredibly special. They had a giant key and said, what is the key to our success? It is never forgetting where we come from. So thank you very much for that for them. I don't know how we got to the third match. I see that Balam asked about the title race. I think we skipped over the second match, didn't we? Because we've only discussed two, yes?
No, we're counting down.
Oh, I see. Okay. We'll get to the title race when we get to one of our next matches. Yes, and we can answer that question then.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely agree with both of you in terms of the points that you've made, keeping the players. There may be some news on the Guirassi point, especially one of the big transfer specialists from a German point of view, Florian Plettenberg, was just tweeting about half an hour ago, so I saw it before we came on, learning or whatever he has maybe gathered that Serhu Guirassi intends to stay at Stuttgart this season. That's not confirmed. It's not from the player himself, but he's a very good source and he gets a lot of things right. So, and he did, by the sound of it, reject Fulham. So yeah, I mean, it would be fantastic if he did stay with us for this season, at the very least, because we will rely on him for a lot. Mavropanos, there was news about Mavropanos possibly failing his medical today. There's a few stories about that, but it seems to have now been squashed, and basically they were said to have been false. I don't know who came up with that, but there was a few articles going around mid-afternoon, I think it was. That looks to be said to be completed. As you say, there is reinforcements on the way for VfB as well. It looks like they're going to sign Leonidas Derigu from Saint Gallen, and that looks to be pretty much over the line. Friend of the show, Jasmine Barber, has been tweeting as well about her thoughts and very impressed by the player. So, I mean, Jasmine's a perfectly good source for us to, rely on. So I'm looking forward to him coming into the team. Even at a tender age, he could really reinforce the back line. And that might not even be as a Mavropanos replacement. I think they'll still go out and get another one. Centre back, that is. But yeah, perfect start. I don't want to, rehash exactly what you two have said. I think everyone had a really good game from a VfB point of view, and Bochum did look really off the pace. It's exactly what we said, Mark, isn't it? If Hoffman and Antwiace can't reproduce what they did last season, particularly Hoffman from a goal scoring point of view, then they didn't score enough goals anyway. If either of those who aren't on form, like, Hoffman wasting that chance early doors, then it will be tough for them, 100%. But one game in, it's a poor performance, 33 to go. So, yeah, just a comment from Ballam as well, around about Stuttgart. So, yeah, have been selling a few players. Can they win next week and continue to stay top of the league? Friday night football against RB Leipzig will be slightly more tough, I think. If they play like that and get off to a good start, who knows? But, yeah, it'll be a slightly different contest, I feel, and fear, Mark. So I think that might be a slightly trickier match. And speaking of such games, we can move on and talk about them right now for the second most impressive game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this was a classic Bundesliga game for me. This was just a superb game for the neutrals. I mean, two very, very good teams, amazing squads of footballers, so many good players on show. Dani Olmo, obviously Openda, who had a good debut as well, good league debut, I should say. Obviously, he played last week against Bayern as well. But yeah, he got on the score sheet as well. There's just so much attack quality in there. David Raum didn't have his best day. Henriks did have a good day, but it was just a superb game. But I think RB Leipzig started the better in this match as well. Timo Werner turning the defence inside out, but smashing just wide. Henriks had a really nice strike as well, which was well saved by Hadatsky. That was a really sweet strike. But then it was actually Leverkusen who struck first, and it was the man that everyone's been thinking is going to leave this season, Frimpong, who eventually got the goal. Like, nobody thought he'd still be playing in a Leverkusen shirt after seemingly being linked with just about every big club in Europe this summer. But yeah, great to see him still at the club. It was actually a great ball through from Granit Xhaka as well. I'm looking forward to seeing in a Leverkusen shirt this year. Really nice ball through. And then it was that man Boniface who eventually got the assist. He did really well after initially kind of slipping a little bit, but he got a good ball into Frimpong, who did one of his classic runs forward and easily finished past Blasvik. And then, yeah, obviously a poor defending from David Raum on the second goal. I mean, what was he doing there? Jonathan Tah smashing home the header. I mean, that was really poor, not just from Raum, it was from a few of them, to be honest with you, from the Leipzig team. It was really poor defence to make it 2-0. Then, obviously, Leipzig get a corner back of themselves, and Dani Olmo heads it past Hadatsky after poor defending on the Leverkusen side. But then, yeah, it was the second half was probably the Florian Wirtz show, really, wasn't it? I mean, he had a shot really well saved by Blasvik initially. And then, I mean, I'm not sure, was it a really beautiful finish, the goal from Wirtz, or was it a bit of a miss hit? For me, it was more the latter. It was a bit of a miss hit. There was a bit lucky to kind of go between the diver Blasvik and the underside of the bar for 3-1. There was still time for a really nicely worked free kick as well from Openda. Like the header from Simakon headed in by Openda. But yeah, I mean, it was a great match. I mean, probably one of the big moments as well was the miss from Openda as well, because that was just ridiculous. Yeah, because that has to be like miss of the season, basically, that one. He was right in front of the net and yeah, just completely missed it. But Peter, I mean, what would you say? What were your thoughts on this? Do you think Leverkusen deserved the win, or do you think it was a very kind of even match, really, this one?
I definitely think Leverkusen deserved the win. I do. It was, of course, this was the match to circle for many, many German football fans because it had massive implications for the title race. We wanted to see, we wanted to check on the status of these two contenders, both of whom have had wonderful transfer windows. You wouldn't think that Leipzig had a wonderful transfer window considering how many players they've lost. But the fact of the matter is that they've really brought in a lot of talent, and we haven't seen the best of this team, not by a long shot. I mean, Openda showed us what he's capable of. Xavi Simons, who we're all looking forward to watching, had something of an off day. I was surprised. Raum, I thought, was great at times, and he was, of course, iffy at times. He did have a great training camp. He really wants that German starting left back role back, and now that he has Gosens to compete with from FC Union, he's going to be fighting really hard for it. And of course, Henrichs wants back into the national team as well, so he's fighting really hard. That's one of the reasons why he was at. There's going to be a lot of talk about the Euros coming this summer for German football fans. We're very nervous, and Hansi Flick was in the stands giving this a watch. What you have with Leverkusen, I think, is almost the perfect transfer window. I mean, Granit Xhaka is such an amazing signing to bring into midfield, and his stability combined with Ezequiel Palacios' creativity probably makes them, for my money, the best double six setup in German football at the moment, even better than Kimmich and Goretzka, who were just reunited on Friday night and had their issues. Jeremy Frimpong had an amazing game. He was involved in all 3 goals. I don't know if he's leaving or not. I mean, the thing about Simon Rolfes is that he is just stacking this roster with fullbacks and wingers. I don't know. I mean, it's so thin in so many other different areas. He needs some more central defenders. He definitely needs another striker, and he needs someone to potentially back up his midfield tandem, because if something goes wrong there, something really goes wrong. Jonas Hoffmann, whom Gladbach fans are not going to be happy to hear this. I mean, he was sort of the traitor of the summer, leaving his longtime club and going to Leverkusen, perhaps to enhance his national team prospects as well. Works perfectly in this top 3 setup where you have Florian Wirtz, who is the most creative player. I'm going to give Wirtz the benefit of the doubt on that goal. I think he meant to do that. I'm just going to say that. It's almost a perfect attack. So Leverkusen could be title contenders, but the problem is that it's a house of cards. If one thing goes wrong, if Wirtz gets hurt again, if Xhaka is out, if everything can sort of come tumbling down because the squad is not balanced. It's not particularly deep in certain areas. And my apologies to Nigerian Victor Boniface. The problem, in a German football writer / podcaster's defense, we had to watch a lot of Union Saint-Gilloise matches last season, and we just basically assumed that it was Boniface, but he's Nigerian. It's actually pronounced Boniface.
I'll have to remember.
Yeah, my apologies. He is an incredible striker. He really is. He reminds you a lot of Randall Kolo Muani. Also, sometimes in that his touch can be a little bit feral, and he can be slightly off on the mark, as he was on that Danny Olmo corner goal. He blew the marking on that when Leipzig pulled a goal back. But Stefan Baumgart famously remarked that when he was commenting on the Harry Kane signing, that if he had 100 million, he would have bought Boniface. So, not quite sure if Baumgart's idea counts for too terribly much there, but he's definitely a player to watch. And Leverkusen, they have what it takes to contend for the title, provided that nothing goes wrong. Leipzig are the much deeper squad. They're the much better squad. They're the most they're the much more evenly balanced squad. But Leverkusen certainly deserve the win on this day. Well, Leverkusen Gladbach next week should be a lot of fun as well, with Jonas Hoffmann returning, and we'll see how they fare against the Foles, who we'll get to in a little bit. Rory, what are your thoughts on what was the big title race game? Did you enjoy it?
I did indeed enjoy it, yeah. And I'm going to start off with a little bit of not a moan, but something again that we alluded to in the prediction show, and something that might hold back Leverkusen. because I just still think Radetzky in net is a particular weak point for me in that team. And you say that Leverkusen have to have a lot of things go their way if they're to be title contenders, and I tend to agree. If they lose certain players within the playing squad, I think they'll drop off performance wise for sure. They're stacked at right back. And other places they're strong, but in others I think that they're slightly weaker. For the Dani Olmo goal, I just feel it's weak goalkeeping, and again you need a high level of goalkeeper to also win your matches and win your points at this level, and didn't cost them the game. And there's not much he can do he can't do anything for the second goal, and he would have been helpless if they got the equaliser when Openda had obviously the great chance. But if you're a Leverkusen fan and you're not happy with that, then I'm glad to be told otherwise. But I just don't think that he's a goalkeeper that will keep you performing at that sort of level in regards to a title race. That's just my sixpence for what it's worth. But overall, great game. Provided really amazing entertainment. I love the relationship between Frimpong and Florian Wirtz. Like being able to find each other on the pitch so often. Frimpong knew that Wirtz would be there. Again, I'm not convinced that Wirtz meant to do that. But however, again, if people want to tell me he did do it on purpose. According to the Bundesliga website, he did do it on purpose. So there you go. Maybe he did. But yeah, no, great game overall. And we expected it from those two. And as Balam said in the comments, it didn't disappoint us in the slightest. So we shall move on to our final game of our featured four. And I think, it's good for us to give these two teams credit nice and early on in the season, because sometimes perhaps they will blur into the background if they're in mid-table or whatever. But so the game of the weekend for me or us was FCA, so FC Augsburg 4, Borussia Mönchengladbach 4. I mean, I had to write FCA in short basically because it wouldn't fit on the screen because we had so many goal scorers to include. I mean, absolutely bonkers game. Particularly the first half, but of course we had drama in the second half as well. I think I predicted 3-1 Gladbach, and at the time when it was 3-1 during the match, I was quite pleased, but lo and behold, it didn't finish that way. Gladbach getting out to a really quick start, good header from the corner from Itakura, getting his first Bundesliga goal, and then the new man, whose name I think I have not been pronouncing correctly, the Czech Republic striker. So I want to get that nailed down as soon as possible. I think it's Cvancara is what we English would say, but there's pronunciation on both C's that I need to get right. So I'll come back to you on that ASAP. But anyway, he got his first of the afternoon to make it 2-0. Really quick start from Gladbach, but Augsburg were able to come back into it from a fine strike from the edge of the area, short corner, worked by FCA, and Rexhbeca banged in a clean hit, really clean effort, which, gave Omlin no chance in net, making that 2-1. And then very quickly, Omlin became provider as a goal kick. They booted long upfield. And it's the old one, isn't it? Don't let the ball bounce. Don't let the ball bounce from a goal kick. And lo and behold, the FCA defence did. Ngoumo very quickly flicks the ball over the defence and runs onto it using his pace. And it holds his own very well and composed and puts it in for 3-1. And then, you're thinking, going at 3-1 and you can see out this game, Gladbach. But back came FCA, some, good set piece work, actually. They worked the short one for Rexhbeca goal. They do it again, and Bauer gets on the end of a header, a volley at the back post, and that makes it 3-2. And then we have our penalty for Sven Michel to bag, and it's 3-3 at half time. And but the second half still had plenty of entertainment. I'll come to you. I'll come to you on this one, Peter, to kind of finish off the commentary, basically to run us through it. And well, there was drama till the end, wasn't there?
Yes, absolutely. One felt a little bad for Ruben Vargas of Augsburg because he scored an absolutely wonderful goal to restore the lead for Augsburg, and then he was whistled down for the penalty. I'm personally pronouncing the name Cvancara, which it's just based on the German announcers' pronunciations from the weekend. Yeah, I think both penalties in that match were actually quite soft, and the German press agreed with me. Daniel Schlager, the referee, got the worst grades of all the refs over the course of the weekend. We Germans, as I mentioned several times on this pod, we grade our referees. We don't yell at them quite as much as the English do, but we do grade them and take things seriously. So Daniel Schlager did not have a particularly good match. It's difficult to referee to officiate a whistle a match involving Augsburg. Always has been since several seasons. Yes. What can we say about this? Well, I mean, I'm at a loss. I'll turn it over to Mark to provide some Augsburg analysis because I'm really not quite sure what to make of that team. I often am not. In terms of Gladbach, I think that a convincing camp, a new sort of straightforward tactical system, and we were alluding to this many times last season that so many players on Gladbach were headed for the exit doors. They've gotten players that want to be there. Nathan Ngoumo has been restored after falling out with previous trainer Daniel Fark. The access that you have attacking-wise between Ngoumo Play and Frank Honorat, another new acquisition, functions very well. It might have functioned better because I think Playa had a little bit of an off day. The German midfield that we saw, Florian Neuhaus and Julian Weigel, also two players playing to perhaps get back on the German national team, were both involved in setting up goals with excellent through balls. Mm-hmm. And Cvancara, I'm pretty much a believer at this point. He's been a little bit of the darling of the German footballing media all summer. People are very, very interested in him and his tattoo on his thigh that says, "Die with memories, not with dreams." He is a determined character who reminds one a little bit of a mixture of two former Czech Dortmund strikers, Jan Koller and Tomáš Rosický. Perhaps he falls right in the middle of the two height. He's not as tall as Koller, but he's definitely as forceful in the box. So we're expecting great things from him this season. I think Gladbach could actually be off to a very good campaign, potentially even, quite surprisingly, it shocks me to say this myself, contend for Europe. And I'm very, very happy to turn it over to my Bavarian friend, Mark, to tell us what he makes of that Augsburg performance, because I had difficulty drawing anything coherent out of that. What do you say, Mark?
Yeah, to be honest, I thought the whole match was bizarre, in truth. I just thought it was a bizarre, very entertaining, but bizarre match. I mean, the start from Augsburg was horrendous, nothing short of that. Conceding a goal off a header from a corner through Itakura. That was really poor defending. Then obviously Finn Darman, obviously on debut. I think me and Peter had actually talked him up as a good signing, but he had an absolutely dreadful debut, in truth. And he almost gave a goal away at 1-0 as well, from through basically losing the ball, kicking the ball straight. I think it was Cvancara. I'm going to call him Cvancara, actually. So I think that's three different pronunciations out of the three of us. Yeah. But I mean, just the whole formation was bizarre, to be honest, from Augsburg. I mean, Engels at right back, I just wasn't sure about that one at all. I mean, we'd seen him do so well in midfield. I agree that the axis of Rexhbeca and Dorsch is relatively promising, but to be honest, we've not seen quality from Dorsch in basically 3 seasons. And for me, he had another poor game as well. Some of the balls he was giving away at the start of the second half was just really poor from Nicholas Dorsch. And it just doesn't seem to have worked out for him there at Augsburg. And to be honest, I'm a little bit surprised he's still there because, he came in with real promise as a German under-21s international, and he's just not provided any real quality. On the rare occasion he has played, he's not done that well for me. But I think the other problem, that credit has got to go to Sven Michel. I thought he played well. He's very tenacious. He's a funny kind of striker because at times you think, this guy, he can't be a top Bundesliga striker, but his finishing is really, really good, and he is a bit of a menace as well when he's given the chance, So he could have potential in that team. I think the other problem that Augsburg have got to sort out is Berisha. I mean, he was woeful in this game as well, to be honest, and I think he clearly wants out, but to be honest, if Augsburg want to have a good season, they need to keep him there and satisfied, because he is the best player at the end of the day. He's the quality up front. And, we know that when he's on form, he's a real handful for the best of Bundesliga defenses. And to be honest, the other thing I want to make about Augsburg is that at the end of the game, Enrico Maaßen almost looked like, I don't know how to say it really, like just kind of despondent, to be honest, when they conceded that late goal. I mean, bear in mind, his team had come back from 3-1 to lead 4-3. And okay, the penalty was a little bit soft, but to be honest, both penalties were soft. So you can't really complain too much on that one, because the Augsburg one was probably just as soft, if not even softer than the Gladbach one for me. But I mean, his reaction at the end of the game, it was almost just like, like another late goal conceded. He looks like a man to me who's, I'm not going to say given up, but I don't think he's got long left. To be honest, I really don't. I feel as though the defeat at Unterhaching last week, a lot of their fans really slated him over that. And, Reuter as well doesn't seem overly impressed with him at the minute. Might still be my bet for the first manager for the firing zone this season. And I think the fact that they came so close to winning a game and his reaction just looks so negative in my view, And I just feel as though the end is nigh of him. I think if they get battered next week at Bayern Munich, I think he could even go after that game. I'll go that far. Because I just feel as though it's not that he's doing particularly badly as such. And, they've got a relatively decent roster, but he just doesn't look, there's something wrong there, in my opinion, with Enrico Maaßen. And I feel as though the end is very, very nigh for him. That's my view anyway.
Well, there is one last quick thing about a post-match interview involving Felix Uduokai, who recently he changed his mind, decided to stay with Augsburg. They asked him, the German youth international, about his opinion of the game, and he said it was disappointing in a good way. And I don't know what that means. So I think there's a lot of confusion reigning in Augsburg at the moment. They're relegation candidates every year. We say that every year. They've been in the league for 12 years. So it's you can't make predictions about Augsburg at this point. We've learned that over the course of the past decade.
Real. Yeah, thank you. So that's our featured four summed up. First featured four of the season, all closed up, and we get a 4-4, a 3-2, a 5-0, and a 4-1 to enjoy. So great start to the Bundesliga. What we're just going to quickly do is gloss over the best of the rest. So what I'm going to do is just basically ask Mark and Peter, basically for you, both of yourselves, to kind of pick out one highlight of the rest of the 5 games. So whether it's a goal or a player performance or anything like that. I'll throw one in as well, which is quite an obvious one. But, Harry Kane off to a good start with FC Bayern with an assist and a goal, obviously, which we saw live. Myself and Mark during the watch along, probably the highlight of the match, just seeing Kane basically getting off to a good start and, bringing all the fanfare around with that. It's been lots of, I've seen quite a lot of advertisement of the Bundesliga on English Sky Sports, which is something I've not been used to seeing at all personally. So, yeah, that was a good highlight. So, Mark, what was your highlight of the rest of those games?
Yeah, I think for me, it's got to be the 88th minute winner from Daniel Mahlen, because, the last thing that Dortmund want to be doing is drawing at home to Köln on the first day of the season, after they needed that win. It didn't matter how they got that win, a win is a win, as they say, and I do believe that they'll get better, but Dortmund really, really didn't play well in this game in the late kickoff. I thought Köln played well above what I expected them to, and I'm already starting to regret tipping them for bottom 2 this season. But at the end of the day, Dortmund got the win and Köln got nothing, and I think that's huge in football. If they could have produced that performance against Mainz, then they would be champions going into this season, and I think it was a big goal. I'm so happy for Marlon as well, because he probably didn't have his best game, but he still managed to get the goal, which is something he wasn't doing in the first half of last season. And for me, it's arguably the biggest goal of the weekend, because, if Dortmund already start giving other teams a lead on them, especially Bayern, then it's a long way back. But obviously they've got the win, they're on 3 points. So for me, that's a big goal.
Yeah, Peter, what's yours?
Glad you mentioned that match. There were parts of it that were quite entertaining. Welcome to the Bundesliga, Mr. Fink Grefer from Köln. Never heard of him before. And props to Emre Can for admitting that he played a poor match and needed to be subbed off. The new BVB skipper. Nice job owning up to the responsibility. I'll select Freiburg-Hoffenheim, the emergent Baden derby that we're hoping is going to blossom into more of a fierce derby. Funny match in that it was a tale of two Hungarians. Attila the Hungarian recently joined in Hoffenheim, scored an own goal. Roland Scheilai, he scored for Freiburg. I believe that proved to be the game winner. And Scheilai actually fouled his countryman Scheilai on his way into the box. I thought that was rather humorous to conclude the first half. That was certainly an interesting match as well for a number of reasons. But the Breisgauer, also a lot of people will always tip them for aggression, despite the fact that they're participating in Europe. A strong start for them. And it was the one Hungarian who prevailed over the other. I don't know if there's Mark, of course, has some Hungarian connections. Is there a difference between a Salai and a Scheilai? Is that or is it just sort of our own English attempt to use the Cyrillic alphabet differently? I don't know.
I think it is. I think it is. Oh, I think you're right. I just got the echo there. Yeah, I think it's Shalai and Salai. Yeah, from what I can gather. Yeah, but to be honest, one thing that I noticed about that one is that obviously the Hoffenheim defender, he was brought in under big name, and he had a bit of a nightmare of the first half of that debut. To be honest, I mean, I'm sure he will get better. Often players have nightmares on debut in a new league, but I think, he didn't have his best day, did he? And credit to Freiburg again, obviously a team that, as you say, every year people think, they're going to fall off surely this year. But it's another great away win, against a Hoffenheim team who some people are tipping to go back into the top half this season. Not us. Me and Rory still had them down in the bottom half. But a lot of people, Derek Ray included, tipped them for a European push this year. So it's a good win for the Breisgauer as well.
Yeah. Brilliant. So we will move on to our final segment. Is something that we've obviously been going to be using Peter's expertise on, and something hopefully that he's got prepared for us this evening. And apologies for our podcast viewers, but Peter, I'm sure, will be able to voice. Basically, we're introducing a Kiosk Klub. So whenever Peter is obviously on the show, he's going to try and bring us basically the German headlines from all the big tabloids around the country, seeing what basically they are thinking or saying of the weekend's football. So hopefully Peter's got something to hand, or just that he can read us a few headlines, and we'll finish off with that.
Thank you, gentlemen. Yeah, we'll see about this segment. It's obviously a sort of a sacred thing for Germans, particularly German football fans, to head to the kiosk on Monday morning, buy the latest edition of Kicker, and I myself also buy the Bild tabloid, as well as the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, the Süddeutsche Zeitung, and my local Rheinpfalz Zeitung, the Baden Zeitung, all of these things, and the Berliner Tagesspiegel and everything. Well, I kill entire forests with paper. That's just that's what I do. That's absolutely what I do. The three biggest news sources in the Bundesrepublik that no German football fan can be without are obviously Germany's preeminent footballing publication, Kicker magazine, which I am so pleased to visit every time I'm visiting Mark in Nuremberg. And we'll be visiting again when I come to visit Mark in Nuremberg, hopefully again very, very soon. There's Kicker, there's Sportbild, and there's also Elf Freunde, the 11 Friends. And something I just wanted to mention very briefly is that it's a magical time of year for German football fans, because we all buy these huge Sonderhefte, right? These huge, thick Sonderhefte. This is the Kicker one. The Elf Freunde Bully Atlas one here as well. And we put together the Stecktabelle. We study all the teams. We waste hours in coffee shops arguing with one another about this and that and the other, and it's all a lot of fun. It's also 60 Jahre Bundesliga very, very proud for my country that we're here. This is the huge Sportbild hardcover, Mark. I'm sorry, but this is going to be your Christmas present. It's already spoiled. I mean, it's just I didn't buy I didn't go to the Hauptbahnhof kiosk and buy a bunch of these for nothing. I highly recommend that people buy that. I wanted to save some Kane headlines for you. The Bayern match, as you know, was quite labored at times. You guys did the watch along. I certainly enjoyed watching the second half with you, which was far better than the first. The best Kane headlines that we've seen in the Bundesrepublik thus far have been "Yes, we Kane," as a reference to the Obama campaign slogan. Also, "Rock You Like a Hurricane," a reference to the German punk rock legends from Hanover, the Scorpions. That's actually Harry Kane's new intro music. They played it when he came on in the Super Cup, and they'll be playing it at the Allianz Arena all season long. Kane got a goal and he got an assist, and the way that Sportbild described it was Kane kann's. So that's the best they could do this weekend. Perhaps we'll have some better ones over the course of the season. I think that "Rock You Like a Hurricane" is my personal favorite. The kicker is leading up with, it's just basically saying a Spektakel zum Start, viele goals and tours and all of this stuff. Very good interview in the kicker with Aki Vatska, in which they discussed the influence of Saudi money, particularly on how the Premiership clubs they have an additional revenue stream and are now taking more Bundesliga players from Germany. This all feeds into a discussion about whether or not the Bundesliga needs to stick with 50+1. We all know that it should. So there wasn't much going on in the kicker today. There was a little pimp that I wanted to get out for the Elf Freunde, which is calling Xabi Alonso der beste Trainer der Liga. So Elf Freunde and some other German footballing publications are now very, very much on the Xabi Alonso bandwagon. They consider Leverkusen title contenders. I believe that our personal nuanced analysis, not just about the squad depth, but also Rory's point about Lukas Hradecky and how the keeper situation may lead to some problems later in the season, is a little bit more realistic. Common joke making the rounds in German footballing circles this year is that Xabi Alonso will win the title with FC Bayern München after Thomas Tuchel is sacked in the middle of the season, since they've already fired everyone else. Tiger Zeitung, most of the headlines in the Süddeutsche and the FAZ and everything today were, of course, about yesterday's Women's World Cup final. This is not a women's football podcast, but I am a women's world football reporter, and I wanted to get in a little pimp with a dig for Mark here. Männer spielen den Mond und Frauen gewinnen der Welt. This is the Tageszeitung saying that men are playing or shooting for the moon while women are winning the world. And this was a dig at that Russian Luna 25 spacecraft that just crashed into the moon yesterday. So I thought it might be a little bit humorous to say that Germans maintain their sense of humor, promoting the women's game, having a swipe at the English and the Russians all at one time. That's just something that that struck me as the most German thing I saw at the kiosks today. So thank you for allowing me to present this segment, of course, as it is something that's very near and dear to a German football fan's heart. I deeply appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Peter. Yeah, appreciate that, and that was lovely. I'm sure lots of people will be big fans of this segment as the season continues. And that's a very nice way to finish off for this evening. It's been great to look back at the really entertaining start to the Bundesliga. We're finally underway. It feels great to be back. So we'll be back with you on Thursday evening for the Fantasy Football Show. Because of Runa's availability this week, it's on Thursday night. I think that'll pretty much be us for the week. Myself and Mark will be talking about when we'll be doing any prediction shows. We will probably do that as a regular thing, but once we get ourselves settled for the season. So definitely see you on Thursday. And Mark, I'll hand over to you to close up tonight's show.
Yeah, so as usual, if you enjoyed what you saw, check out our Twitter/X at Over the Bar FB or at Over the Bar Extra. Also, don't forget our main site, which is otbfootball.net. So we're starting to kind of up production on that as well. Again, we've got a few new writers for this season. We're covering everything from National League. You've just got literally everything on our website, really, like and our written stuff. You can find women's football, National League, Football League, Bundesliga, everything. Yeah. So don't forget to check that out as well. We are a YouTube channel, but we're also a main site as well. And also don't forget to check out Peter's Bully News as well. Peter and Runa, obviously key players in Bully News, which is, for me, the best site to get Bundesliga, pure Bundesliga news, really. I do believe that. Obviously, we are the best YouTube channel, but they're the best website as such, yeah. So, yeah, I've got to say that. Yeah, and obviously, we've enjoyed doing partnership with them over the last couple of years as well, which is always great. And then, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We have made a brilliant start to the season as well. We've already got around about 100 subs just since we started producing a couple of weeks ago. We want to get to that 1,000. We're so desperate for that, and we're getting so close now. Once we get to that 1,000, we can continue to up production for you guys and bring you more and more Bundesliga action. Yeah, thanks to Paul as well. Yeah, thanks for checking in as well, Paul. They're impressed with the Union signs. I think we all are pretty much. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us today, guys. First review show of the week. And as Rory mentioned, we will have more coming for you this week as well. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. And ciao. Bye-bye from us.
Cheers all.